Why does China import a large amount of crude oil while exporting refined oil products at a low price? What is the reason behind it? Nowadays, oil has become one of the most important energy sources for promoting industrial growth. With the continuous improvement of industrialization levels in various countries around the world, the role of oil in economic development has become increasingly important, even becoming one of the most important political tools in the game among major powers. The most effective economic sanction that the United States can impose on Russia is an energy blockade. With the rapid development of China's economy and industrialization levels, the demand for oil is also increasing day by day. However, upon carefully studying China's oil import and export situation, we will find that while China imports a large amount of crude oil, it also exports refined oil products at a low price. According to data from 2022, China imported a total of 508 million tons of crude oil from foreign countries. Although the amount of crude oil imported is so huge, the export volume of China's three major refined oil products reached 34.428 million tons in the same year, and the unit price of its refined oil products is much lower than the domestic market price. China's strategy of importing a large amount of crude oil while exporting refined oil products at a low price may be confusing to many people, as it seems like a losing business. Then why does China continue to do this? Why not keep the oil in the country to lower prices? Control oil and you control nations. This quote, attributed to the American strategist and former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, illustrates the immense importance of oil, also known as black gold, in modern society. According to statistics, a person will consume 551 liters of oil for food, 3,790 liters for housing, 290 liters for clothing, and 3,838 liters for transportation over their lifetime. With a population of 1.4 billion people, China is undoubtedly a major consumer of oil. In 2022, China imported 508 million tons of crude oil from 48 countries, making it the world's largest importer of oil, with an import dependence rate of over 70%. This has led to concerns that if oil is treated as a strategic resource, China's high dependence on imports could make it vulnerable to other countries' influence. So, why doesn't China exploit its own domestic oil reserves, instead of importing large amounts of expensive oil from overseas? Firstly, as a major oil consumer, China consumes 600 to 700 million tons of oil annually, but its annual crude oil production is only around 200 million tons, accounting for only 1/3 of oil consumption. The remainder must be imported, which is a significant amount. It is almost impossible to rely solely on increasing domestic production capacity to make up for the shortfall. Taking the Chongqing oil field, which has the highest crude oil production in China, as an example, in 2022 the crude oil production of the Chongqing oil field was 65 million tons, ranking first in the country. This means that in order for China to achieve oil self-sufficiency, it must have more than 10 oil fields like this to support oil consumption. However, oil field development in China is particularly challenging. The Middle East is the region with the best oil production environment in the world. Not only does it have vast oil reserves, but the oil layers are also thick. It can be said that the large oil fields in the Middle East are like huge oil storage tanks. Extracting oil is like opening the lid of a tank and draining the oil through a pipe. However, China is different. The formation of Chinese oil and gas is mainly dominated by continental sedimentation and does not have the conditions to form large oil fields like those in Saudi Arabia. This determines that oil exploration in China is difficult. As a result, China has invested a lot of money, energy, and technology in oil exploration, leading to high oil production costs. So, why did China choose to export refined oil products in a high oil price environment? Why not just use it domestically? The reason why China chose to export refined oil products is first and foremost because domestic production capacity is already in surplus. According to statistics, in 2022, China exported 53.6 million tons of refined oil products, including 12.56 million tons of gasoline, 10.9345 million tons of diesel, and 10.905 million tons of aviation kerosene, with a price of only about 90 cents per liter. It is important to note that the average price of 92-octane gasoline across the country recently reached $1.20 per liter. So why is China selling refined oil products at such low prices? China is importing a large amount of crude oil, while exporting refined oil products at low prices. What is the purpose of this? In fact, it is not fair to blame China for double standards. First of all, we need to understand that crude oil generally refers to unfiltered oil extracted directly from underground. After removing impurities, it can be refined into different specifications of refined oil products. In recent years, China's petrochemical industry has undergone rapid development, resulting in an increase in the number of domestic refineries, with a capacity of over 10 million tons to 32. The annual refining capacity has also reached 920 million tons, surpassing the United States and making China the world's largest refining country. According to statistics, China's total output of refined oil products reached 366 million tons last year, with an additional 26.4 million tons imported, totaling 392 million tons. However, the actual domestic consumption of refined oil products is only 345 million tons per year, which means there is excess refined oil production capacity. Moreover, China is a large trading country with a trade import volume of 18.1 trillion China yuan in 2022. However, in international trade, the China yuan cannot directly purchase foreign products and can only be settled in other ways, or in US dollars. Refined oil products are essential commodities with high foreign exchange earning capability. Therefore, China chooses to export the excess refined oil products to other countries. China has multiple offshore oil extraction platforms in the ocean, but these platforms are far away from the mainland. The transportation cost of bringing the crude oil extracted from these platforms back to Chinese refineries for processing is very high. If the crude oil extracted from these platforms is transported to neighboring countries, such as Singapore and Malaysia, higher economic benefits can be obtained. Secondly, China's demand in the foreign exchange market also affects its position in the international market. In order to gain a competitive edge in the international market, they must compete with international oil prices. At this time, only quick shipments can reflect the export advantages of Chinese products. This is the second reason why China exports petroleum products at low prices. On the other hand, the reason why the gasoline price in China is so high is that it includes many taxes and fees, including consumption tax, value-added tax, construction tax, etc. In addition, transportation costs are also included in these oil prices. Therefore, when all kinds of costs are combined, the gasoline price in China becomes higher and higher. Exported petroleum products do not require as many taxes and fees because they are mainly processed using imported materials. These imported raw materials will not flow into the domestic market, so all taxes and fees will be exempted during customs inspection. After being exempted from taxes, the price advantage of petroleum products can be reflected, which is why the price of exported petroleum products is lower than the price of domestic gasoline. The price of refined oil is related to China's international economic status. In order to obtain greater and more long-term benefits, it is inevitable that some losses will be suffered in the short term. Lastly, it is worth mentioning that the transformation of China's own technology into wealth can best explain its behavior of importing a large amount of crude oil while exporting refined oil at a low price. This approach can maintain the safety and interests of China's entire oil industry and promote the development of its economy and oil refining industry to a greater extent. This is one of the ways for China to gradually become stronger. With a robust economy and advanced technology, it can also promote the research and development of oil extraction equipment and talent cultivation in this field. Therefore, it can be considered a win-win situation.